So first of all, I'd just say thank you to Aquavape International for inviting me to come and speak to you all today, and also I want to thank Langdon's for their presentation. There are some parts of this presentation that cover what they've already covered, but I'm going to underline some of the significant points so that you understand exactly where we are, and then hopefully answer some further questions about that. Now, I'd like to point out that we asked HMRC to come to this specific briefing to speak to you directly. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, so I put the short story and now giving you the presentation that hopefully HMRC would have given you. But I'm only giving this from my perspective from Arcus, so if you've got any HMRC sort of digs and questions for them, they are very receptive to questions. There is an email address which I'll share with you later if you can ask them direct questions. Anything specifically about licensing, I will obviously revert to John as well. But, so yeah, thanks to my colleagues from Langdon's, and if you are looking for a warehouse management system that covers duty and excise, I would recommend Langdon's work in partnership with them on a number of things. So, over the next sort of 30 or so minutes, probably be a little bit shorter than that, we're going to walk through this significant regulatory change. And it is significant, and it's the first sort of excise duty that's been put in the UK for literally over 100 years. We've not had a new excise duty that's been put in. So as a consequence of the new excise duty going in, there are some kind of steps that we've had to walk through in order to make that effective, or HMRC to make that effective. So whether you're a wholesaler, you're moving pallets, or a retailer dealing with face-to-face consumers, the rules of the game are completely changing. This is going to be operate as your sort of operational roadmap to protect your business, verify your supply chain, and stay on the right side of the law. So let's start with the paradigm shift. So vaping products are no longer flying under the radar. We've got away with this for a considerable amount of time. Some of the more, sort of, let's say, less sophisticated players in the market have got away with this for a long time. The element of putting a tax on a product changes its position entirely within the marketplace. We're no longer talking about getting fines for not complying with the tobacco and related products regulation, which was £2,500. And Arcus Compliance, we did a piece on that, an FOI piece on that about 2 years ago, to work out how many fines have been given. And out of the 44 regional areas that we looked at, the sum total of fines that were issued under that was £2,813. So you can see that there was very poor enforcement, and I'm not slating my enforcement colleagues in any shape or form. The ability to enforce has been reduced over a significant period. If you looked at 10 years ago, how much money we invested into enforcement, specifically trading standards, they've had a cut which is tantamount to £200 million. In some areas, we have one trading standards officer covering a large area, such as Ealing, where they cover a large area where there are multiple wholesalers within there that have got multiple products which are of questionable nature, and then you can see that if you've only got one trading standards officer, that's going to be a very difficult call for them to do. I also, just in support of my trading standards officers colleagues, want to point out that this is just one small part of what they do. One tiny part of what they do. You know, we talk about lead in paint for children's toys. We're talking about any product which is a risk. So, you know, they have got a significant portfolio and very limited resources to do it. So please do bear that in mind when we're all going, nothing's happening. So, as I say, these products are no longer flying under the radar. They're being officially designated as an assigned matter under the Customs and Excise Management Act 1979, CMA. And this isn't just a small tax update, as I alluded to. The government's backing this with a massive £140 million enforcement engine. That includes 20 million specifically for bespoke IT tracking, and 120 million to be put to dedicated enforcement of boots on the ground by 2030. Our first hard deadline for all of this kicking off is the 1st of October. That's when the duty point, so that's when we are talking about these products being excisable and dutiable, actually kicks in. The headline that we've got before that is coming up very shortly, which is the opening for the registration process on the 1st of April, and we'll cover that later. By that date, the obligations impact every single link in the supply chain, right down to the shop floor. There is a grace period until the 1st of April 2027 where products that were imported or manufactured before that date may be sold unstamped and excise free, which does create a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, and I'll talk about that later. Okay, so moving on then, we have to look at the public health balance, deterring youth while maintaining the switch. So why is this happening? It's a delicate balance between public health balancing act. The core objective is to reduce the affordability and appeal of vaping products to young people and non-smokers. That's the official line. But also, the unofficial line is that there is a good tax revenue to be generated from these products. Clearly, you know, if you look at the tax revenues that are generated from cigarettes, and then you suddenly look at the size of this market, which John spoke to you about earlier, about how vaping is now, you know, done that crossover with smoking, there's considerable tax to be made. But the official line, as I say, is about reducing the appeal to young smokers, young people and non-smokers, young smokers. However, the government knows that vaping is a tool for smoking cessation, and to maintain the financial incentive for smokers to switch, there's this I can't even say that word, phased increase of tobacco duty happening exactly at the same time. So the financial gap that the incentives that will incentivise the switch is being legally preserved. Okay. Let's define exactly what the duty is. So under the Finance Act 2026, and there are a number of acts that you need to be aware of in this. So we've got SEMA, we've got the Finance Act, we've also got the new regulations on this specific product as well. And we've adopted a single flat rate of £2.20 for 10 millilitres of vaping liquid. And you're all very aware of that. Why a flat rate instead of taxing by nicotine strength? Well, simply, it simplifies the maths, it streamlines reporting, and it eliminates the arguments at the border about product classification. So if it's got liquid in, it's getting taxed, basically. If it's vapable, it's getting taxed. So let's talk about the scope. So what incurs the duty? Any liquid intended to be vaporized. So nicotine-containing liquids, nicotine-free liquids, i.e. short films, DIY products, so if you sell PG and VG for the use of vaping, they will come under this particular tax, even vaping flavours. For pre-filled disposables and pods, the hardware itself isn't taxed, but the liquid inside them is. Dry hardware, i.e. empty tanks, coils, batteries, licensed medical products, and traditional tobacco products are completely exempt from this specific duty. And as this is a liquid-only tax, no excise tax is currently being applied to other normal nicotine products. However, keep a close eye on that, because I'm pretty sure, as we saw from the presentation that was given at the start, as nicotine pouches rise and ascend, I'm pretty sure that the government will keep their eye on that particular marketplace and think, do you know what, this could be a good source of income. And to protect yourselves from that, if you are a manufacturer or somebody that deals with these products, please ensure that when you look at these products, they are not attractive to children. Because that is the lever, that is the kicker, that is the thing that the government are going to go at and use that as their reason for putting a tax on a particular product. So I would always say to anybody that's in the nicotine pouch industry to try and learn from some of the mistakes that were made in the vaping industry about child-attractive products, and ensure that you learn from that so that you don't become a victim of this particular tax as well. So the shelf price impact calculator. Let's look at the real-world maths. The shelf price impact, so £2.20 per mil, as we said. The duty is calculated to near 0.1 mil for volumes under 1 litre. So a standard 2mm pre-fill will have 44p duty, standard 10mm, duty around 20, and a 50mm whopping £11. So it's going to have a significant impact, I think, on the short film market, I think we will see. And retailers, please take note though, the duties apply at the point of manufacture and importation, so you won't pay the HMRC directly. Most of you in this room also won't pay HMRC directly. But you will experience this as a massive immediate increase in your wholesale purchasing costs. As already stated, please note that VAT is also added after the duty, so essentially it's around £20, £2.64. So it's massive on top. So who pays? Manufacturers and importers are legally responsible for paying the duty directly to HMRC at the excise duty point. So the excise duty point, anything post 1st of October, if it's released from duty suspension, that's the excise point. They are the ones who must purchase and physically apply the vaping duty stamp and digitally stamp the products once released into free circulation. Wholesalers and distributors pay the duty indirectly via those increased costs, and they're responsible for ensuring all products are stamped correctly. So you have a responsibility down the check to make sure that you are only taking products which are appropriately marked with this excise stamp. Retailers are the final compliance checkpoint, and again, they must ensure that no unstamped product reaches their shop floor. But there is this April area that we're talking about, so we're selling products between October and 1st of April 27. There's that area there where there will be unstamped products on the market. So let's talk about the ultimate proof of legality of the vape duty stamp. This is only an illustration. I've seen the actual stamp, so to speak, which is currently in a process of being redesigned. And what I can tell you is that a couple of things are currently being discussed. The first thing that's being discussed is where the barcode is. They initially designed it with the barcode in the centre of the stamp. And my colleague Liam Longstone from Totally Wicked pointed out to them that didn't make any sense as you were folding this over a product. It was a better place to put it, and it would have been far more sensible to put it at either end. And fair play to HMRC for taking that on board, and they're looking at redesigning that stamp now so that the scannable element will be at either end of the stamp so that it won't get confused. I came up with it, I'm very proud, a very good idea. And I'm hoping, I don't come up with them very often, so quite proud of it. I've suggested to them as well that this element where they've said that the stamp needs to be applied to seal the box is changed, because it actually says in the regulation, so it's applied to seal the box, and either the stamp or the box must be spoiled. To me that doesn't make any sense, because if the stamp or the box should be spoiled, why can't you put the stamp anywhere as long as the box is spoiled? That will hopefully, if they take that on board and they have responded to me that they're looking at that will hopefully mean that stamping becomes a little bit easier if the box is designed in such a manner that it is destroyed on opening. And there are various sort of iterations of packaging out there where that makes absolute perfect sense. So you can have it on the side of the packaging nice and flat rather than over where you open it, as long as that box is spoiled. What they're concerned about is that the stamp is not reused. Well, clearly you can't peel it off because it will be voided, and the box cannot be reused. So the suggestion has been taken on board, and I'll update via my colleagues at Aquavape if that is put into place, and we'll call it the Sidebottom solution. Not even a titular. Okay, so as I say, that's an illustration. They are highly secure, bespoke labels measuring exactly 18mm by 42mm, and from October 2026, the presence of an intact stamp is your only legal protection against stock seizure. Before I talk about this, because this is an area which is going to take me a little bit of time to go through so you understand the difference between transitional and digital, and it does cause quite a bit of confusion. I just want to raise the point about the labelling there made about with regards to HMRC informing the populace about this exercise. They have actually got a media campaign out at the moment. They have released various bits of media that we can share out within industry and we can share out to consumers as well. However, limited budgets, as you can imagine, a huge budget to do this. I don't expect it will be a particularly national campaign, but from my point of view, between the 1st of October and the 1st of April, the hard deadline being the 1st of April, the consumer will catch on pretty quickly about what is a taxed product and what is a non-taxed product, because we will have both on the market during that period. So when they go to the shelf and they see a product with a stamp on that's got £2.64 more in cost as a minimum, compared to the same product which is unstamped, £2.64 cheaper, I can hazard a guess what to buy. And that's going to be an interesting choice for the retailers to decide exactly how they're going to play this. Are they going to take in product which is pre-excise and sell that at the same time as stamped? Because I'm rest assured that the pre-excise stuff will go first. I also fully expect that we will see a period of consumers stocking up. Once they learn about this and they go, well, that's stamp products on stamp, and they realise that this product is going to suddenly come that 1st of April deadline, it's all going to be dutiable, I think they're going to. So it's a consideration for retailers to look at very carefully. So there's two types of stamps that are rolling out. Transitional stamps. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail and give you some FAQs on the transitional stamps after I've done this little bit of a narrative. So used before October 2026. They will have the physical security features but no digital scanning capability. They're designed to help manage inventory before that particular live date. They cannot be affixed to products released after the 1st of October 2026, and we'll go on to this a little bit in a little bit more detail, and cannot be affixed post that date. There's some caveats to that. Digital duty stamps available from the 1st of September 2026. These include a unique data matrix that must be scanned at set points in the supply chain. Crucially, they support aggregation, meaning that you can scan a whole wholesale box, for example, via a single aggregated code rather than scanning 100 individual products. The outermost rule dictates that these stamps must be securely attached to the outermost part of the final retail packaging, as we discussed earlier, and it must physically seal the packaging so the product cannot be opened without permanently damaging the stamp, unless the Sidebottom solution comes into play. And so trying to reuse that stamp is a criminal offence. So let's just clear up these transitional stamps so you understand that, because you're going to see them come through. So can products with a transitional stamp be manufactured and affixed after the 1st of October? No. You absolutely cannot stick a transitional stamp on a vaping product after the 1st of October. If, in fact, you'll only be able to purchase the transitional stamps until the 31st of August 2026. So this is, obviously, you can see this is evident manufacturers. So your overseas manufacturer needs to ensure the transitional stamps are physically attached to the packaging before October 1st. So this allows the manufacturer to take that transitional stamp, send it to their manufacturer in China, apply it to those particular products, ship them back to the UK, and once they're in the UK, they then go into duty suspension, and then they can be released post the 1st of October. Does that make sense? So it's about allowing manufacturers to apply a stamp to deal with their manufacturers in China, so they can apply a transitional stamp so that these products are ready at the point of the duty point, so they can be released. So they can be applied over there and shipped. So I'll just go into that a little bit more details. Can products with transitional stamps be imported after the 1st of October? Yes. So you can see where I'm going with this. As long as the transitional stamp is affixed to the product before the 1st of October 2026. So it goes over to China, gets affixed before that date. You're completely fine to import these products into the UK after the 1st of October. So if your shipment doesn't land in the UK until late December, that's absolutely fine, provided the stamps are in account before the October deadline. So we can see how that works. Of course, there's a great deal of confusion with transitional stamps. Do products with transitional stamps have to be in duty suspension before October? If your stamp products physically arrive in the UK before the 1st of October, they cannot be released onto the market yet, and must be held in customs duty suspension. So they must be held in your approved premises, or your customs warehouse, or your excise warehouse, depending on which one of those three you've taken on. But, and I will just add to Langdon's presentation, if you've got a customs warehouse and an excise warehouse, you need to have an approved premises as well. It's a tag. That customs warehouse and that excise warehouse will need to have the status to be able to handle vaping products. Please note that the new digital duty stamps will actually be available from the 1st of September 2026, as we discussed. So for the products landing in late December, your manufacturer can theoretically start ordering it and using the new digital duty stamps in September, or they can use a transitional box. As long as those transitional stamps are fixed before that 1st of October deadline. So with that in mind, you are highly likely to see all types of stamps on the market. You're likely within that period to see three things: unstamped product, which is your pre-October manufactured imported product, transitional stamps, and you're likely to see digital duty stamps as well. Let's just have a quick look at the anatomy of a compliant package. So we can see that the outermost rule here is that the stamp must be securely attached to the outermost part of final retail packaging. The box or the bottle itself, if supplied with an outer box. Tamper evident seal. The stamp must be affixed in such a way that it physically seals the pack. That's the current position until the Sidebottom solution comes in. And retailer audit, it must be physically impossible, to open the product without permanently damaging either the packaging or the duty stamp itself. And I've seen various solutions around this as well, where people are talking to their packaging suppliers and they're saying to them, okay, I'm sealing the top with the stamp, what am I going to do about the base? Because historically we've just had simple glued bases which don't ruin the pack. And we've seen solutions where people are having perforations in the bottom, so that when you try and open it with the perforation, the box is spoiled, or indeed they're putting void stickers on the bottom as well. And there's an opportunity as well, which I discussed with you from Sydney. I've got one particular player who is producing void stickers with their NFC tag in them. So that if you want to seal the base of the box, you can seal it with a void sticker that's got an NFC tag in it, and that NFC tag will also allow you to do promotional marketing to the individual who's purchasing it. It will also allow geo-tagging, so you can see where the product is gone. It's quite an in-depth solution. So, just talk about the legislative bit at the minute. Integration into SIGMA. So why is the government so confident they can enforce this? Well, because vaping liquid is now, as I said, an assigned matter under SIGMA 1979. This unlocks decades of established excise enforcement powers. HMRC officers now have the legal authority to enter and search any retail vape shop, search for concealed liquids, take samples, and execute immediate seizures of unstamped goods. As my colleagues talked about, if you have, John, if you have perfectly good product, but you have one bad product on the shelf, they can seize them all. So their powers are extended significantly. We'll talk about those powers shortly. So the cost of non-compliance, the escalating penalties. The penalties escalate very quickly, so financial ruin. Severe civil penalties for possessing or displaying unstamped products. Total stock seizure. HMRC can seize illicit goods and they possess the authority to remove the legitimate as well. Duty paid stock found on the premises, so any legitimate product, doesn't matter whether it's all done right, it can go. Criminal prosecution with custodial sentences up to 10 years. And the ultimate threat under Section 128 of the Finance Act, the courts can issue a premises sales ban, so you're no longer going to be able to sell those products. And the UK VIA and others are actively working very hard to try and get the licensing scheme in place as well. We've had recently a couple of good opportunities to leverage that with the fire in Glasgow from an unlicensed Scottish premises, which hadn't paid its business tax, wasn't on the business register, hadn't visited their HMRC, hadn't had expired inspections, etc., etc. So we feel that we've got a very, very good argument now for licensing these particular products. And that is likely to run in line, to allude to your first question, with the Licensing Act, and be a tag on to the Licensing Act that's currently in place for alcohol. The consequences for that as well will hopefully be very good, so that if we have licensed premises and they, for example, don't fall foul of the licensing scheme for vape products, they could lose their alcohol license as well, so the two would be likely tagged on together. What's the compliance catch? So the compliance catch 22, the manufacturer bears the administrative burden of paying HMRC, getting the stamps, but the retailer bears the ultimate physical risk on the shelf. If your supplier cuts corners or uses counterfeit stamps, it's your inventory that gets seized. And it's your shop that faces that sales ban. You can no longer passively accept inventory. You have to proactively police your own supply chain. You need to make sure that they are doing the right thing, they have got the approved premises, they are stamping correctly, it's all correct. Let's have a quick look at the timeline. So the countdown to compliance. So 1st of April 2026, HMRC opens the application process, and there is currently, probably running at this moment in time, there is currently a webinar being run by HMRC today, and there's another webinar being run tomorrow. If you want the details of that, please come and see me and I'll forward you the link. You can sign up to that, and there, the whole premise of that webinar is to talk people through the application process. I also understand that they're discussing stamps in some detail as well about that webinar. So from the 1st of April 2026, HMRC approval is open. If you do custom mixing in the back of your shop, even mixing zero nicotine bases, you're legally a manufacturer and you must register. 1st of September 2026, the digital stamps become available. 1st of October 2026, the duty point starts, that's the live date. And for the 1st of April 2027, this is the hard deadline now. The retail deadline, the grace period ends, every single vape product outside of duty suspension must be stamped, regardless of when it's so, just as a side note, this is the deadline by which any pre-October legacy stock must be sent to an approved warehouse. So if you've got pre-October stock in your warehouse, you can't have it, you break it up, it's got to be sent back to your manufacturer's approved premises for reworking, so they can put it into their duty suspended area, they can rework it, and they can stamp it. So with that, we've got an operational action plan for you. So audit your supply chain today. Exactly the same as what Landon's doing. I'm not too sure if they have a presentation. Confirm your supplier's timelines for HMRC approval. Phase out your unstamped stock. Start managing your inventory aggressively to clear legacy products well before that April 2027 deadline. You do not want to be caught out by this. Register by April 2026, so the registration process opens in a couple of days. If your operations classify you as a manufacturer, update your goods in protocol. Retain your receiving staff, retraining your receiving staff immediately. Come October 22, 26, every delivery must be physically verified for unbroken, unauthenticated Vaping duty stamps on the outermost packaging. I'm going to open it to questions now, very cautiously, and remind you that I'm not HMRC, and that I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. From my point of view, John's point of view, this puts significant pressure on those mini-marts, for example, just a turn of phrase there, those mini-marts and those businesses that are operating below the radar, significant pressure. Because breaking the law for TPD and TRPR is completely different to tax fraud, completely different. So they have got an entire new arsenal behind them, so to speak, to be able to deal with those particular players. And we are talking about, seizing entire stock out of the store completely, shutting them down, sales banning orders. At the same time, multi-agency approaches with the NCA, using trading standards officers, looking at human trafficking, the whole routine, so it does put significant pressure back on. So trading standards operate under they've all got an enforcement policy. And what I would say to you is that if you have a particular area that you're concerned about and how their enforcement, ask them for their enforcement policy, read their enforcement policy. Now, the vast majority of enforcement policies are directed to work with businesses first. So it's to give them advice and guidance first. And I think that's an entirely acceptable position to have. However, we're now not just talking about trading standards officers, we're now talking about HMRC officers. And as I alluded to on my first slide, the significant investment into HMRC officers now turning up. And it becomes a completely different playing field when you walk into a premise and you're doing tax for it.
I think also it solves, the tax stamp solves two issues, right? First of all, it makes the products far more visible, right? So basic products far more visible. If it's got a tax stamp, it's legit. If it doesn't have it, it's illegal. Also, it makes it easier for trading standards to say, this is a licensed premises, this is not. So if products are on this inside this non-registered product or store, it's illegal, right? So that makes it a little easier from that perspective. And as we were just talking about, the enforcement powers are totally different. So I've gone out and raised with trading standards, I've given evidence, 2 years later I'm still waiting for that court case to get to court, right? HMRC walk in, seize everything, seize your car, seize your house, seize everything. You've got to prove that this money did not come from illicit sources. Totally different. So, is it going to stop the illicit trade 100%? Probably not. We know that. But it's going to make it a hell of a lot more difficult for that illicit trade to operate.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It does change the paradigm completely. It puts a massive enforcement powers now in place. And as I said, the king wants a shilling. And they will enforce and they will ensure that they do. Now look, we know, we're perfectly aware of what's happened in the tobacco sector. We know there's illegal cigarettes, we know they get hidden, we know that we've seen these videos, for example, search dogs finding them in premises. That's not going to go away, absolutely it's not going to go away, because there is a market for these products. And let's be very clear as well that it's organised crime. The illegal vape products that me and John have been banging on about for since 2017 is in organised crime. It's absolutely organised crime. It's a multi-million, if not billion-pound industry of gathering cash only through these illicit products. And that needs to be attacked. And I think the Vape Duty stands creates a clear definition between illicit products and real products. And I think the consumer will latch onto this. I'm just going to run up. I'll just do a little final plug for Arcus Compliance so that you understand exactly what we do. We started in 2017. We primarily started in the novel nicotine sector, vape products, doing compliance for those products. We do end-to-end support for businesses for compliance for those products. So that's everything from GPSR, TPD, TRPR, CLP, that's classification, labeling, packaging. I'm just running off a load of acronyms to show what they are. We do absolutely everything. So if you want to launch a product on the market, come and speak to us. We don't just do vape products, we also do electronic products. I was just doing a vibrator yesterday. Yes, my son tells everybody at school that I test vibrators. It's really embarrassing. We also do cosmetic products, so if you need any compliance support at all, please come to us. If you've got vibrators, very good at doing those now. I'm excellent at testing vibrators. We also support businesses with robust applications in terms of customs warehousing, excise warehousing, and now this new application process. Just so you're aware, approved premises applications are tantamount to making an excise warehouse application. We have asked HMRC directly if the question was, is it going to be any more onerous or is it going to be any easier than doing an excise warehouse application? Their response was no. We don't want to retrain HMRC officers. So if you're going to go through this approval process, please be assured that it is it's quite a complex process to go to. We are happy and here to support you in that particular process if you wish to do that with us. And as I say, we are supporting Langdons as well in terms of warehouse management systems. If you've got a complex system, please speak to these guys, they will support you on that. So thank you very much for your time.